For 4 days, London was captivated by a mystery, a brilliant, invisible crew of thieves who vanished with millions in jewels, gold, and cash. They didn't use high-tech gadgets or a dramatic getaway car. Instead, they drilled through a 50-centimeter thick concrete wall deep beneath the streets of the city's Diamond District. The police called them the Bad Grandpas, a nickname that hinted at the unbelievable truth behind the crime. It was one of the most audacious and elaborate heists in British history. The police had almost no forensic evidence, no clear surveillance footage, and no immediate suspects. The thieves were like ghosts, leaving behind a scene of quiet devastation. But they had one weakness, one critical oversight that would unravel their entire operation: their own bragging. The story of how the Hatton Garden Gang was caught isn't about a violent confrontation or a high-speed pursuit through London's narrow streets. It's a story about the power of ego, a field of investigation that relies on human nature. It's about how a group of men's pride, their inability to keep a secret, and their casual conversations became the very evidence that put them behind bars. This is the incredible story of how Brian Reeder, Terry Perkins, and their gang of elderly criminals were captured by their own boasting. Let's rewind to the Easter weekend of 2015. Hatton Garden, the heart of London's jewelry trade, was unusually quiet. But deep underground, a plan years in the making was finally in motion. A group of men, disguised as gas workers, descended into the basement of the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit building. Their target was the vault, a subterranean fortress believed to be impenetrable, filled with hundreds of safe deposit boxes belonging to the area's jewelers and dealers. This wasn't a smash-and-grab job. It was a meticulous, patient, and calculated operation. The crew was led by men who were legends in the criminal underworld, figures straight out of a classic British crime film. There was Brian Reeder, the 76-year-old ringleader, a notorious thief with a long history of major heists. There was Terry Perkins, 67, a seasoned criminal who had served time for one of Britain's biggest cash robberies. And then there was Daniel Jones, 60, and Kenny Collins, 75, the lookout. Their combined age was well over 200 years. They were supposed to be in retirement, living quiet lives. Instead, they were about to pull off the biggest job of their careers. Their method was deceptively simple, yet brilliantly executed. They gained access to the building and disabled the lift, climbing down the shaft to the basement. There, they forced open a set of security doors and came face to face with their main obstacle, the vault wall. Using a heavy-duty industrial drill, they began to bore a hole. For 2 nights, they took turns drilling, creating an opening just large enough for a man to squeeze through. Once inside, they ransacked 73 safe deposit boxes, stuffing their bags with a breathtaking haul of diamonds, sapphires, gold bars, and bundles of cash. The total value was estimated to be around £14 million, making it the largest burglary in English legal history. When the bank holiday weekend was over, they simply vanished, melting back into the city, leaving behind a scene that stunned investigators. The media went into a frenzy. The press dubbed it the perfect crime. The police seemed baffled. How could a group of thieves bypass state-of-the-art security systems and disappear without a trace? The public was fascinated by the sheer audacity of the heist. The thieves were almost seen as folk heroes, a throwback to an older era of gentleman criminals. But behind the scenes, a dedicated team of detectives from the Flying Squad, a branch of the London Metropolitan Police specializing in armed robbery, was piecing together the puzzle. They didn't have much to go on. The thieves had been careful, disabling the CCTV system's hard drive. But they made a crucial mistake. One camera, belonging to a neighboring business, captured a faint image of a white van arriving and leaving the scene over the Easter weekend. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Using automatic number plate recognition technology, detectives traced the van to Kenny Collins, the 75-year-old lookout. This was their first break. The police put Collins under surveillance, and what they discovered was better than any piece of forensic evidence. The gang, confident in their success, couldn't resist reliving their glory. Collins, Perkins, and Jones began meeting in pubs and cafes around North London, openly discussing the heist. They talked about how they would divide the spoils, how they would melt down the gold, and how they had outsmarted the police. What they didn't know was that every word was being recorded. The flying squad had planted listening devices in their cars and used undercover officers to monitor their conversations. The men who had been so careful during the heist were now incredibly careless. Their pride was their undoing. In one recording, Terry Perkins was heard boasting about the size of the hole they drilled, bragging that his biggest drill bit did the job. Daniel Jones was recorded talking about burying his share of the loot in a cemetery. These conversations provided the police with an irrefutable, minute-by-minute account of the crime, straight from the mouths of the perpetrators. They were essentially confessing, providing a running commentary on their own downfall. The police listened as the gang planned their next moves, blissfully unaware that the net was closing in. Just a few weeks after the heist that had captivated the nation, the police made their move. In a series of coordinated dawn raids, officers arrested the core members of the gang. The evidence against them was overwhelming. In their homes, police found books on forensics, diamond testing equipment, and some of the stolen property. Following the clues from their recorded conversations, police recovered a significant portion of the loot, including jewels hidden under a gravestone in a London cemetery, exactly where Daniel Jones had said he'd put them. The trial was a spectacle. The image of these elderly men, some frail and hard of hearing, sitting in the dock accused of such an audacious crime was surreal. They were no longer the masterminds of a brilliant heist. They were exposed as a group of aging criminals whose egos had gotten the better of them. Their own words, captured on tape, were played in court, sealing their fate. Brian Reeder, Terry Perkins, Daniel Jones, and Kenny Collins were all found guilty and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. The Hatton Garden heist wasn't just a story about a jewel theft. It was a story that proved crime has no age limit, and that even the most meticulously planned crime can be undone by the simplest of human flaws. It showed that in the end, it wasn't a sophisticated alarm or a vigilant security guard that caught the bad grandpas. It was their own need to talk, to boast, to relive the thrill of their final, spectacular crime. In the quiet of a London pub, over a pint of beer, the ghosts of Hatton Garden gave themselves away, turning their legendary heist into a cautionary tale about the high price of pride.